Worst vacation job ever. Oh. The Royal Hotel comes to us from writer-director Kitty Green, who did The Assistant, as well as some other projects. Check out our IMDb page for the full list of her work, and also written by Oscar Redding, who did a couple projects, including a show called Cop Hard. And I promise you all that I reacted to that name with good taste and maturity that everybody has come to expect from me. And if you believe that, well, that means you are a new viewer, and if so, hi, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. The Royal Hotel comes to us from Neon Studios. It's A24 Neon Studios. They're almost neck and neck, because honestly, they're willing to take risks with independent projects that with some studios they might say, well, we'll add a bunch of money, but we're going to make this our own project. A24 Neon Studios are willing to give filmmakers like Kitty Green a chance to tell their story and take something that was the source of a documentary that came out in 2016 about two U.S. backpackers, and in this case, they're played by Julia Garner, who is an Ozark and The Assistant. She plays Hannah, who's more fiscally responsible, but is nevertheless a little bit meek, a little bit more, I really don't want to ruffle any feathers, but there's just something bubbling underneath the surface because she's fucking sick of, having to clean things up and deal with certain things, and she's tired of always being the responsible one in this friendship with Liv. Jessica Henwick, who is Bug in The Matrix Resurrections, the completely unnecessary bullshit fourth Matrix movie that nobody fucking wants, but Jessica Henwick, she's beautiful. She's definitely beautiful. She was also in Glass Onion, as well as The Gray Man. But in all seriousness, Jessica Henwick is very good, and I hope she gets more projects. And Julia Garner, both of them did great in this. I will say that right there. It's basically relying on their performances to carry this 90-minute movie. That's about two U.S. backpackers that run into some financial trouble, shall we say. Liv comes up with the bright idea, hey, to get more cash, because I'm not responsible at all, and I don't want to go home. We don't want to be smart and go home. Because of some reason, we don't actually find out why. We don't really find out why they can't go home and just do the smart thing. They're just trying to get away, so they're in Australia. They take a job, like a work travel program that apparently exists in countries that I was not aware of. They're going to go to a very, 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 very remote Australian pub. I mean, seriously, I don't know that much about Australia, but that looked remote as fuck. There are areas in Washington that aren't that remote, and we have some really fucking remote, podunk, very, very hick-like places. Anyway, Washington State is nowhere near Australia. They take this job to earn some extra cash. And let's just say the pub, called the Royal Hotel, is not necessarily a great area. It's in a mining town. There's a lot of miners out there. That's miners with an E, not with an O. And some of the locals are fine. Others, it's very obvious they just want one particular thing. Oh, they see fresh meat. They're very misogynistic. I mean, you take a look at Julia Garner and Jessica Henwick, you can't help but be attracted to them, but you also want to be respectful and understand that people's bodies just aren't playthings. You want to make sure you get a yes. No doesn't mean yes. No means no. And there's Carol, Ursula Jovic, who I've seen in something else. I know I've seen her in something else. She is the wife of Billy. Don't be a hero. Billy is played by Hugo Weaving. Really? I did not recognize that was Hugo Weaving, which is weird because looking back on it, it was totally Hugo fucking Weaving. And then you have James Frecaville. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. He plays Teeth. No, really, his name is Teeth. He doesn't chew anything, oddly enough. It's not that kind of movie. You have Dolly, Daniel Henshaw, who is very much a drunk and a creep and everything. And you also have Maddie, Toby Wallace, who I've seen in some other stuff. And a few other people that might seem kind of familiar if you're more into Australian movies. But yeah, two Australian backpackers, Liv and Hannah, take this job. And pretty much they don't ingratiate themselves all that well. We get the idea from the beginning that Hannah is not very happy with Liv not being very responsible. And the situation gets worse and worse and worse until basically there's a breaking point, not just with their jobs, but with the friendship. They are reliant on this money, even though it really does seem like they could leave at any point, but they're in a remote location and the bus only comes by here and there. It only comes by like once every few days or once a week, I guess. And they have to learn to deal with the locals. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty much the same people every goddamn night. couple different people from areas. I don't know how anybody would find this goddamn bar because I don't know much about Australia. I don't know how anybody would find this goddamn place unless you lived in that particular area. I don't know where the houses are in this particular thing because this is so fucking remote. I mean, Billy and Carol live in a goddamn trailer. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but that's where they live. And Hannah and Liv live in this particular, just above the goddamn pub. They clean up. They earn money. They deal with the locals. And the situation gets more and more like it's just bubbling, and then it's just going to spill over. And let's just say it goes in a couple ways that maybe people don't quite expect. I will say that I don't know how many liberties this thing actually took with the story of the U.S. backpackers in Australia, the documentary. You can check out the IMDb page and get the name of it. But I had heard about it. I hadn't really studied it all that much. This obviously takes some liberties with it. And while I admit that this movie's a bit rough around the edges, it's also an expedient 90 minutes. And because of Julia Garner and Jessica Henwick, it works. It really works because of them. Because you get the sense they love each other as far as friends, or possibly more. I don't really know. That's never really necessarily explored. But it's obviously about friendship and about understanding that people are going to make bad decisions. There's like two sides of the coin. One wants to stay despite every piece of evidence that they shouldn't. They should have never done this. They should have just gone home. But they can't go home, even though we don't find out. And the other is trying to be more responsible. Like, we can't fucking put up with this. This is fucking bullshit. Let's just leave. And there's layers on top of it. Some of the characters, it's pretty obvious where they're going to go with the whole thing. I mean, there's one particular character that just exudes creepiness right away. That would be Dolly. And come on, I mean, just nothing against the actor himself, but just the way they portray the character. You look at him and he's just obviously a goddamn creep. But there's other creepiness subtly underneath, with a lot of these characters. And it's just a very seedy area where it seems like everything's going to overflow. The bar, despite seemingly being successful, may or may not actually be all that successful. You have Billy and Carol's relationship being tested. It's good. In fact, it is good. Perhaps even great. In fact, I would go so far as to call it great. Again, rough around the edges, and sure, there are some moments where I wish a few more things actually happened. But when it builds up and eventually pays off, it pays off in enough of a way where you end up enjoying it overall. So the Royal Hotel actually does get a recommendation. It's in theaters, playing near you. Please go give it a shot. Kitty Green did a great job here. Julia Garner, Jessica Henwick, great stuff. And the supporting cast did fine too, don't get me wrong. But those two ladies, great stuff. So yeah, if it's playing in theaters, check it out. I'm glad I saw this after watching The Exorcist Believer. Check out my review of that if you really want to know how I feel. But anyway, I'm going to get into spoilers. Neon Studios knocking it out of the park once again. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay, so basically Liv and Hannah try to mingle with the locals. Liv more so. Liv's more of the flirty type. Hannah was a bit flirty with this guy that was on the boat. It was a very, very nice boat with an underground rave bar. That boat must have been like 50 goddamn feet tall to have a bar that big. But I digress. They end up getting in this remote area. Carol, it's obvious, does mean well, but she's very kind of set in her ways. Also, she has a nephew that delivers stuff to them that Billy hasn't paid because Billy owns a family bar. His dad and his grandfather own the whole thing, but it's gone to disarray. And then you have Dolly. You have Maddie, Toby Wallace's character, who seemingly wants to get with Julia Garner. I mean, can you blame him? Look at her. But maybe there's ulterior motives. Also, there's a character, Teeth, that seems nice, but let's just say also only just wants one particular thing. There's also two girls that were vacationing that are leaving. Dolly takes them away, takes them back to their particular area. Or takes them, back to like the big city so they can catch their flight home. The thing is at one point they imply, like, the girl's banging, she forgot her goddamn hat, comes back and leaves. And it's almost implied, actually, that I was thinking they were going with a little bit of a twist that Dolly might have killed them and left them in the outback, because honestly, you wouldn't fucking find them. You wouldn't be able to fucking find them. They'd be lost to time. But, yeah, Hannah and Liv's relationship gets tested. At one point, Dolly kills a snake and stuffs it in a jar for her. There's a bright orange, beautiful tabby in there. It's just adorable. There's a lot of drinking and everything. It's like if Coyote Ugly had like slightly less scuzzy people in it. And from there, we just get a lot of stuff about drinking, partying. There's one point where Liv kind of makes a decision to be more flirty and stuff like that. Hannah finally just fucking snaps because of the way Maddie has treated, is treating everything, treating them and acting and everything. After this one guy shows up that Hannah had been flirty with on the boat, things kind of get a little bit more tense. He's fitting in a little bit too much. And then he just vanishes. He just seemingly vanishes just out of the goddamn blue. Like, he gets shoved out the goddamn door, and that's it. Billy ends up finally going into like some form of a medically induced coma or alcohol induced coma. So Carol takes him away, and Carol says, "We left some money here. I paid my nephew. You do what you can. Keep the bar open for a couple more days or whatever. Get what you can and get the hell out." Okay, is it going to be swallowed up, or is a giant hand from Cabin in the Woods going to come up and do this? We have no goddamn idea. It ends up at one point where it looks like Liv's going to get taken away by some guys, and Hannah just finally pops the guy's tires, and that's Dolly's truck, I assume. And everybody's still drinking, but then everybody just suddenly leaves. All these miners, I guess, are going to have to find somewhere else to just go party and drink. And there is a nice tense moment with Hannah before that, finally just getting fed up with fucking Dolly. Just finally getting fed up with him. I mean, she just reaches the point and then she backs back down. Then she does the thing with the axe. Then her and Maddie get in a fight. He busts the axe back in her face because pulling it and then it swings like that. And she cries and gets upset. And then she freaks out and she just goes out and decides she's going to start swinging. But then the character of Teeth shows up and runs into Dolly and Maddie's car because he really likes Liv and got a little bit too handsy with Liv, but does care about her. But then they decide to lock themselves in the goddamn bar, and they decide basically to burn the bar down, despite the fact that they were arguing just a bit ago, and it looked like Liv might be, taken away, and it would have ended badly. Let's just say that a certain vehicle on a track would have been run. Let's just say, and their friends, they set the bar on fire, seemingly have enough time to gather their shit and leave, and then that's it. What's going to happen with the bar? Who the hell knows? The Royal Hotel is no more because it's the end. Because when you burn a bar called the Royal Hotel in a movie called The Royal Hotel, that's it. So yeah, that's it. That's it right there. Good performances, especially by the two lead actresses, and good stuff. I enjoyed when it got more into the violence and more into the rage, and just Hannah finally having had it with Liv being irresponsible, but feeling an obligation. It's about friendship and about swinging an axe at tires on an Australian truck. That's the message I got from it. A-. Good job, Kitty Green. Like, my opinion matters because you're a filmmaker and I'm just a lowly fan. But good job. And good job, Oscar Redding, writing this also. Good collaboration. You done good. Like, again, it matters what my opinion, means. A-. Agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.